later.
Record on this computer. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Matt. I totally forgot about that. So here I just added an image to that box just by clicking the gear, browsing to it, and changing it. I didn't change this text here, but you can always take that text out and add something to it as well. If we scroll down a little bit further, we have a calendar that's been added to the page right here. And on the left-hand side, it talks a little bit how you could put instructions down on how to use this page, some information maybe for your students or something like that. Hey, and just as a general how-to, frequently asked questions about your page and what you want your students, what you want them to know. Under our Parents tab, or our Parents page, here's some information that we want to have available to the parents. So maybe we want to have office hours and another way for them to contact you. Student grade expectations, parent involvement. Sometimes people post like a best practice or like a web, what you're allowed to do on the web, what you're not. Other things that you could include are like links to our device for our insurance, a weekly parent update, resources like COVID parent support tutorials, just any information that you may want to add as far as a parent accessing it that would help out. The next page that we want to take a look at, and these will expand here. And if we look at Unit X dates XXX, this talks basically about what the unit of study that you are. Now this is the secondary level. And then maybe we're on Unit 1 and we're listing the dates under the XX heading up here, so you know what the dates that it covers it in. We want you to overview the content with the intended outcomes for the unit. Over here on this right-hand side, it talks about some important information over here that you might want to post up here. Publish and unpublish. You may want to publish pages as needed. This will help with the better management of it. And then as we come off of our main unit dates, now we're going into the lesson. So here's an example of a first lesson that we would access. And then this would be, this is a Unit 1, Lesson 1. Let's say that's to start. Your date is optional, but I think it's always a good idea to put the date down. That way everybody is really on the same page as far as the timeline goes. You would put your class content under here. You would link students, content to students to complete daily lessons. You can click on the gear on the right-hand side. You can delete blocks. So if you don't want this assignment block being up here, you could select that and you could delete different content blocks on. But we just added just as a basic. Now, these are suggestions, and really it's kind of, will help everyone if we standardize this across, you know, the district. That way when kids leave from one school and they go to another, it'll be pretty much common over there. Within this lesson, you might want to have a video lesson. You might want to have essential questions. And also, yes?
Oh, just a couple things to show when you get a break.
Okay.
One thing they want to know is, you see how you did the little carrot to get that subpage?
Mm-hmm.
Can you show them how to add more subpages using the Organized Pages tab?
Sure. So here is an organized page. So I'm under this tab here. I'm going to select that. Then I can come over to the organized pages, and what it'll do is it'll open up everything that I have listed in my LMS as a page. So we could come over here and we could say add a new page here. We could add another new page. And then if you wanted them to be in this indent like Unit 1, Lesson 1, you can grab it and slide it over. You can grab it and slide it over. You can grab it and slide it over. So then maybe you would name this Unit Lesson or Unit 2, Unit 3. And then when you say apply, now you see where it says new page. You would just have to add whatever the unit lesson is on the page name. So this will say new page, but you could just say this is going to be, click on it and name it Unit 2 lesson, and then the date is being optional. Okay.
And then when they pull it down, one of the things they might want to do first is like go to manage page and
Oh,
then
hang on a
like
minute.
make a copy of it so that they have that template always there.
I see. So if I come over here to this lesson page,
Yep.
okay, manage page,
Yep. Copy.
and then you would select the class that you wanted to go in. And here I'm still in the test LMS. And what page do I want it to go on? Here it was, the Unit 1 lesson. And then just say next.
Yep.
And then say copy. And there it should have copied it down right here. And then here you would just, that's a good point, Shannon. Then you would just change that to whatever unit you want. And then you have what the class content, so it gives you the information on that as well, on what you might want to put on there.
And then I'll just do one more thing before you
Okay.
go back. Just another question we have, can we change settings for most recent lesson is at the top instead of some students need to scroll down? It's like on the left-hand side there. I think the important thing will be putting the date so that students know what date it is. And if you want to go from bottom to top, I think that's fine as long as the date is clear so that students know what they're clicking on.
Right. You have the ability under this organize to move it wherever you want on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Good. We're good then.
So good. So that's how we bring it down so far. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back and I'm going to masquerade as a teacher. And I did get permission to use her account here. Okay. So I'm going to go under her My Classes. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a new manual class. I'm going to name it 7th grade business, and I'm going to name test behind it so I know it's my class. She resides at Jefferson. Uncheck allow user nicknames. Check don't use notifications. Use the year 2020. Say next. I'm going to say finish. And then that's going to create that page again. Now, once again, if I wanted to bring the templates down, I would come up here to the library. I would select library and I would select, she's a secondary teacher, but if you were in elementary, you could use the resource there. And my page is created. I didn't bring in the other templates down yet. What I want to do now is I want to show you how you can link different sections if you're at the secondary level. I've created my 7th grade business test class. I'm going to go under Manage Class, and I'm going to select Edit Roster. From under Edit Roster, we need to create the number of sections that we are going to have available. By default, it should give you 2, a section A and B. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to name this Period 1. And I'm going to go to my section B, and I'm going to name that Period 2. And if I wanted to add another section, say I'm teaching 2 more sections, I could select add a section. This says 3. I want period 3, and so on. Now I'm going to go back to, I've got my 3 sections, period 1, 2, and 3. And now I need to bring my students in for each one. So I'll go back to my period 1. From here, I want to select import students. Now, we want to import students into period 1, of course. That's what we selected. You want to make sure that you select only list my classes. Drop this arrow down and say 2020, and then hit search. And here's where the students are going to start to populate. So I'm going to look, for example, here is, I know this is a period 1 class. I don't know how all the coding is for what the sections are. but I'm just going to say, okay, here's digital citizenship. I'm going to select this class. I'm going to say import. It's going to link my, you want to make sure that you leave it linked and not a one-time import, because that way, as your roster changes, your rosters will stay current. You're going to say continue. It's going to list the students' names. Then I'm going to import it. And there we are, where it's the section 1, all the students that had come into there. Now, it's not an active class yet, so I could select make active here, but I'm going to go back over to manage sections. And in this one, I'm going to go back. Yes, sir.
So a couple people have just kind of asked to slow down a little bit. So just
Sure.
to reiterate again how you got here.
Okay.
So maybe just X out of this. This is how you get into setting up the sections.
Okay, let me close this out.
Yep. So you're going into manage class, correct?
Yep, I'm going into manage class,
Then
edit roster.
And then if you have not added sections, it'll have a little plus button where you said add sections.
Correct.
Yep. Now you have manage sections. So
Right. So you can see I've put 3 sections down here, period 1, 2, and 3. And just like you said, Matt, you should have a plus button to add. By default, you should get like a section A and a section B.
Yep.
And then you can just select the plus button to add more sections. Or if you did what I did and you need more, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to select manage section. And here's where
you see the one that's linked already, or you did for period 1.
Yep.
Now you would just go on to period 2.
I'd go to period 2,
You'll see that nothing is linked.
and there are no students.
So now you're going to go to import students, and essentially you're going to do the same thing.
Same
which you
thing.
did For period 1, you're going to now do for 2 and 3.
Yep. So are we good so far on that? All right. So then,
Can I say one more thing?
Yep.
Before you go to the question? Why would you do this instead of just use the classes that are in already rostered? So the reason that Rick is showing you this is that so if you teach Algebra 1 and you teach 3 sections of it, you don't want to have to go in and click and manage 3 different classes. If you link all the sections like he's showing you, then you can create one page and push things out to all 3 sections without having to recreate that content.
correct.
So this is mainly for secondary.
Yes.
Elementary teachers who have multiple classes, like special area teachers, would want to do something similar to this as well, albeit it's a little bit more because they might have 20 classes that they teach throughout a week that they'd have to go in and do that. But it's a one-time thing, and then your student rosters are automatically updated as students come and go. So just kind of to be aware there. But again, this piece of it is mainly for the secondary folks. If you're just a normal second grade teacher, you only have one roster of kids that you're having to manage, so you don't have to do this stuff.
Okay. So I'm going to grab section 2 here. I'm going to import a couple more students, or only my list. 2020. I'm going to search. I'm going to grab like a period 2, it looks like. Go to the next page. Here's period 2 with some kids in it. I'm going to say import students. And then I'll do the last one here. I want to go to my manage section, period 3. I'm going to grab the import the students, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here when I'm finished. Come down here, 2020. There's a period 3. I'm going to grab those 11 kids. Make sure it stays linked. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to import them. So then when it's all done, I'm going to say close. And here's the difference. This is what Shannon was saying. Now what I have is I have one class with 3 sections, since I'm teaching the same thing for all of them. So if I wanted to create an assignment, I could create an assignment and just issue it. I could issue it to all sections, or I could issue it to individual periods or sections at that point as well. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to give you an idea of where you can find some help on is if you come up here to the help tab and select the help tab, there's a support form, a knowledge base, and ask the community. So if you come up here and you say to the knowledge base, you could say adding sections And then here it'll show you a list of multiple sections, and you can click on any one of these links here. And then what it'll do is it'll give you like a walkthrough as well. Yes. All right. So that's where the help is. Now, we had a request to come back, and let me get out of here. Unpin this. There we go. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is the first example I showed you, secondary. Now that I'm in this test, even though it's for the 7th grade, I'm going to show you how you can add the elementary pages to the library. So just pretend this was a 1st grade or 2nd grade or 3rd grade. When I come up to the library, this case, I'm going to say elementary LMS template. I'm going to use it to the existing class, and I'm going to say copy resource. I'll get that same heading. It says right now, please wait. The import is in progress. Usually it only takes like a minute or two, if that long. I'm going to select my first page just to see if it starts to add it. And it did. Okay. So here's what our elementary pages look like. We have our parent page here, which a lot of it's going to be pretty much the same. Provide some information. Somebody left a nice little picture up there for the lunch menu. It shows like what your expectations, behavior, that could just fall under anything that you want. Your contact information on the side here, your office hours. Now, when we look at the weekly date, change this by week, you'll see that we have a breakdown of maybe you want to do it by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm going to select the Monday tab. So on Monday, it's talking about the organization part of it. You can organize your blocks by subject. You can change the columns to better utilize the space on your page. Clearly label your content blocks. You can add links like Seesaw, other websites, and your practice activities as well. So the difference is we break it down by the day of the week for the elementary side. And then if you went up here to your weekly date, you're going to put, hey, this is week 1, and then whatever the calendar dates would be for that, you could enter on that. So that's the elementary side page. I hope that helps that part of it.
Click on the Monday real quick.
Okay, so let me click on Monday.
Just to kind of clarify what Sarah had put here when she set it up, when she says you could organize it by layout. So if you go to manage page, you can select page layout. So maybe you want to have a column for reading and a column for math. So you could choose even 2 or 3. You could do a reading column, then put all of your content for reading on one side, one for math, and one for social studies or science. So it just kind of helps organize that for you. What you do on your page is sort of up to you as an individual teacher. Just making sure that it follows that same format every day, so kids aren't searching around your page for the content. So the goal here is just to make it organized however best works for you.
There was a question earlier in the chat too about when you add a content block, can you make it so that it goes to the top of the page? And you set that when you go to, Rick, just click on add content block, just do a regular on-page text. Down at the bottom, you see where it says block placement. By default, it will put it wherever the last block was that you created, but you can choose to always have it at the top of your page. You just click there, then you can have it insert there when you're done.
And then just save it.
And then and then once you save it, it'll go to the top of the page. Now, if you accidentally put it at the bottom or to the right or whatever, you can move it around afterwards. It's not stuck there forever.
And we would suggest that if you are choosing to lay this out by subject, that you kind of organize it in a way that makes sense for your students to start at the beginning of the lesson and kind of work through it going down. So you wouldn't want to put your end result or your exit slip at the top of the page. You'd want that at the bottom of the page, because you want this to kind of flow as though the students are, working right with you and going from the top to the bottom.
Okay.
Let's see.
Any
Yeah, I
more
think
questions so
There
far?
is some flexibility. Lisa Dunn, I think it looks like, asked for middle school. We have to use a specific format, unit lesson. We cannot organize however we want, correct? You just said the format, I think that they're saying needs to be consistent is more on the way the pages are laid out on the left-hand side. So having the weekly date and having the days there. How you organize the individual page, like we were just showing, whether or not it's one column, 2 or 3, there's where you have some flexibility. Am I saying that? Or is everybody?
Yes, because there was a lot of, I guess, parent questions about pages being laid out differently and
Mhm.
having trouble finding where content was because teachers weren't consistent. And so this is more just for consistency of the page layout, but
Mhm.
then on your actual page, it can be organized whatever makes the most sense to you as the teacher.
And here I changed it to just a 2-column block there, but I could change it to a wide right just as well. I mean, you could have something here and then something over here. And then sometimes they organize that because maybe they want your students to watch a video or read a passage, and then they go from column 1 to column 2. So you've done something in column 1 and you're moving over to column 2 to either turn in an assignment or work on a web page or something else like that. Did you have another question then?
Click on manage page and the page light again so they can see where that's at.
Yep. So here's your choices. You can do it all 1, even 2, wide right, traditional 2, or 3.
But
Columns.
manage page, not manage class.
Correct.
Each page you can have set up differently.
Correct. A lot of flexibility there.
Erica, for your question about asking to change now, this was sent out over a week ago, I think, to principals in the blast. So we're sorry if that message did not get translated, that this was the format that we were asking them to use, but that was, we got that out as soon as we got it approved.
Right. Okay. So one of the other things that I wanted to do is I'm going to have to stop masquerading. No, I'm gonna stay masquerading because as we've moved over to PowerTeacher Pro, questions are coming in on that. The gradebook side of it is like, can I create an assignment in my LMS and have it carry to my PowerTeacher Pro gradebook? Well, the answer is yes, you can, but it has to be a very structured way on how you do that. So I'm going to walk you through an example there. You can only create an assignment by points to carry it over. And then we're going to walk through that part right here. So I'm going to stay on Monday. I'm going to come over here to activities, and I'm going to go to assignments. And I don't have a teacher account myself, so that's why I'm still masquerading here. I could say add an assignment. I'm going to name it. Maybe it's called math worksheet. Fill out the worksheet. Turn back in. Now here's where that checkbox comes if you're a secondary person, that in this assignment, it'll create it for all if I want, but if I uncheck that, I can select which section that I want that assignment to go to. Maybe I want it only for period 3 and not all of them. I'm going to leave it set for all of them for right now. Here's where it comes down to make sure that you have it checked, allow students to submit work on time. You have to have this box checked to save it in your PowerTeacher, and it has to be by points. Now, we recommend using 100 points and then just pretending it's like your percentage as far as 100%. You could also select the auto-calculate assignment standard scores in PowerTeacher. We have not been able to test that part on the LMS side to the PowerTeacher Pro carryover to see if that fully does. So we'll have to look on that part, but you want to make sure that it is in points. And I'm going to say auto-calculate. Now, here's where I could attach a file from Google Drive, but since I'm masquerading as a different user, it's not allowing me to grab my Google Drive attachment here. Then I could say upload a file, I'm not going to upload a file right now. I'm just going to say save. And that should, if I was on the PowerTeacher Pro side of it, I'm going to click the grades tab for the teacher. And here you can see under this assignment that my math worksheet was here. And at that point, you could put in a value on here on how many points that they received. And that point should carry over to the PowerTeacher Pro side of it. You can only do assignments, remember, by points. If you have other ways of wanting to do assignments, then you can use the PowerTeacher Pro side and create assignments on that side as well. But keep in mind, it does not backflow. You can't create something in PowerTeacher Pro and expect it to come back to the LMS side. It will not do that. It's only LMS to PowerTeacher Pro and only in the points. Okay? All right. So that's the PowerTeacher Pro side. Now what I want to do is I want to get out of stop masquerading. And now I'm back into my class, and I'm going to go into one of my test classes that I just created. And you know that you create them yourself when you see the garbage can where you can select them. I'm going to select LMS Structure Elementary. I was playing around earlier this morning. And if I come down here, I can say, I could create a content block. I could go to messages and activities, and I could create an assignments block. So maybe we want to name this block Week 1, Unit 1 or something. I'm going to create, I can put the block wherever I want. I'm going to select this bottom right. I could say new assignment. Maybe I want it called narrative writing first person form. Please submit after you read the article. I'm coming down here. You can select a due date for when you want that assignment to be due. I'm going to change that to no due date. Here's the key part here. Where you want to make sure that you always check allow students to submit work online. And here you can tell it where you want the assignment to show. If I had more than one assignment block, maybe I have week 1, week 2, week 3. Once I added more assignment blocks, I would get the option of where I want to put that assignment. I'm just going to leave it on week 1, unit 1 on the first page. Now the difference here is when I go attach from Google Drive, and when I'm looking for a file that I want to share out to all of my students, I'm going to find that on my drive. I'm going to say select. And what changes here is now when we come over here and we select it as a handout, the read-only doesn't mean anything here. You just want to make sure that this is selected as a handout and hit save. That means all my students, after I post that assignment on the LMS, they will get their own copy of this assignment or their own copy of that document
put one of those
or the assignment to submit on their own.
and have them do that.
Okay, that was the
All right, and then,
how to hand out an assignment. Was there any other questions yet so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure there's probably lots.
Is there a grade?
so they're going out of town that day, or if they're sick, too sick to do anything.
I think I'd have to check. I would have.
We'll check.
Yeah, I think everybody does. Yeah, they should all have a connection to it like that.
I wanted to ask.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Because, I mean, obviously, there are gonna be times where people just don't show up to do or whatever.
Couple things that just give you a break from talking for a second that we've talk through is we know this is going quick because the nature is that we have a lot to cover in a short time. But just make sure you check out that teacher resource page because we have slower versions that you can rewatch and rewatch so you get this all set up on that. We have some that we recorded in the spring on the Power School Learning tab, and then we have some even about the templates on the back to school or return to learn section of the page as well.
Perfect.
So check those out too.
So the website to get there is fwcs.info/DLR. Thanks, Matt, for posting that. And then I'll show you what happens once you get to that website. It's going to change it to sites.google.com. And then here's what Shannon was talking about. Here's your teacher learning resources. They're broken down to what subject areas or what content areas that you want to do within the applications. So just go through there and select that. There's some really good ones out there. Now the return to learn, the tech one, is a very handy resource as well. This lists who's in charge of what, who does what as far as STEAM and STEM, and what the different areas that the coordinators cover. As you scroll down the page here, it talks about other ways of contacting us and staying in touch with Twitter and our Facebook side. Talks about our different resources that we have available here. So as we scroll down even more, we talked about what our LMS requirements for. So we had added these requirements, but what I did earlier on that LMS page, I brought that down. So this is what we talked about within those pages. So we took from you taking the time to actually create in each segment or each part of it and just created the pages so you could copy them down with this information in. When you scroll down a little bit further, it talks about the PowerTeacher Pro resources. If you select the PowerTeacher Pro internal resource page, that will take you to where you can log into PowerTeacher Pro here. It'll show you where you can obtain your gradebook training, and it also has some quick reference guides and a user guide. Now the user guide's that's like 76 pages, but there's a quick reference guide that's available here as well. That might be like 20 some pages. It'll give you the most common answers to the questions that you're looking for. I'm going to show you how you can get to our TMS as well to access that online training. Is there any other questions coming in yet? Or all right, while you're looking them up, I'm going to take them to how they can get signed up on the TMS. So what you want to do is you want to go to our home page, our home FWCS. Once you're here, you'll see where it says other apps. You can scroll down to where it says talent management system. And that should take you to a landing page that looks like this. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says My Learner Dashboard. You can select that tab. And then you can see what's been really assigned to you over here on this side. So I had two. This shows me, hey, mandatory seizure training. A lot of us have went through that. I'm going to close that back up. Okay, well, I still don't see the PowerTeacher Pro. Where can I find it? Well, you could look at the current. That just added one additional one too. You could look at the library. Scroll down through that. But if you come up to where, what would you like to learn today? Or this search box right here, you can click on that and just start to type in PowerTeacher. And you'll see that there's a PowerTeacher Pro Gradebook training. And here's where, let me move that. Here's where it'll come up to where you can select, and you can select register. Now, we've had questions that come in that said, hey, I started the training, but I had to walk away and I came back and it went away. You'll just have to re-register. And I've done this on several different occasions just as a review. Like, how did I do that again? Where was I supposed to do that within the PowerTeacher Pro? So even if it closes for you, just type in under that search box, PowerTeacher Pro, come up here and select register. I'm going to select register, and then I should have it on my portal for me to access at this point. Then I'd come over here and I would just say start. And that will walk you through that online PowerTeacher Pro training side of it. Other questions? Because we can go back and we can cover some of that other if they need to see another example how to access something there. Okay, it's 1:42 unless you guys have something else to offer or add.
One thing I think has come in a couple times in different ways is, can you show how to create that, what we talked about before, how to create an assignment and then make it a handout for students?
Yes. Okay, so let me go back to close
While
this out.
Rick's getting that ready, just remember the great thing about using the assignments block is that when you click handout, this is going to make a copy of whatever document you are sharing with students. It's going to give them each their own individual copy. So anything that they change or add is only on their version. And then the second bonus is, as soon as they click the link to get whatever you want them to complete, a copy is automatically saved in the student's Google Drive, but also in your Google Drive. So if the students are working at home or they're working across the room, you can click on a file that's automatically been created for you and see what your students are doing. So I could kind of peek on Steve's document and I see, oh, he's not doing any work right now. Oh, I could put a message to him in the comments and say, hey, Steve, you should have.
That's a bad example.
Steve would always have his work done, I know. But, so this is really, I think, a really good feature. That's my favorite.
Okay, so you can do that by adding a content block, and you could create an assignment block. And
Rick, just to show, you're in that third tab, because by default, when you go to the add content block, Sarah put this in there.
yes, this is what it normally looks
Usually
like.
it looks like that. So
Yes.
you're on that third tab,
Yes.
messages and activities.
Yep.
And just one more thing before if close out of that box for a minute. We always recommend adding anything to your page through content blocks. If you click on the activities at the top, you could also make an assignment. But kids don't always see it if it's not in a content block.
Correct.
Because they just kind of get lost in a stream of assignments.
Think of the content block as a container. You're putting it into kind of like a folder or a file so that it's easily found there. You could put multiple assignments into one content block that you created for assignments. So it's not just limited to one assignment. You could do several assignments for a class in there.
Okay, so always make a content block. That's helpful too. So if Sarah and I are doing the same assignment, if it's in a content block, I can share it with her. If it's in my assignments tab, I cannot. So make the content block is the takeaway here.
Okay, so add content block.
Yep.
Messages and activities, assignments.
And again, this is one of the videos that we have on our digital learning resources page. So you could walk through this as well as we go through it. Maybe a little too quick for you right now.
So I named the last one I made assignment week 1. I'm just gonna grab that. Now this is just the container that I'm putting them in right now. And then here's where I could select where I want it to be. Maybe you want to move it to the lower right. Maybe you want to move it up. It doesn't matter. I'm going to select the lower right again. And then once I select that box, it says now to get started, you need to create an assignment. So I'll come over here. And then we need the title. What do you want the name of that title of that assignment to be? Last example I gave, I said narrative writing first person. Maybe I want to have a math worksheet, and then under the details part this is where you're going to put the instructions on what you want the students to do. So maybe it's fill out worksheet and hand back in. You could have a due date. I could highlight the calendar. I want this due by Friday the 21st. Make sure that students are allowed to submit work online. And then you can show it in assignment blocks here. This is where we get when we select attach from Google Drive. So a lot of folks have asked us, why are we using Google? Because Google allows us to do more functionality and interfacing within our LMS. So when we select from Google Drive and we grab a worksheet or something along the lines, let's see, kindergarten. Yeah, okay. Let me grab this one. And I say select. Here's the difference. And this is what Shannon was mentioning. This is where you have to have your handout selected here.
And that is the button. When you click that, that's going to create a folder in your Google Drive that's called Kindergarten Phonics Scope and Sequence until once a kid clicks.
Yes.
So
Yes.
It'll create that as soon as your first student clicks on it, and then it creates a Google document for that kid's assignment. And what's nice about it is it takes the name of the document, and then it even puts the kid's name at the end of the document so that they're able to see exactly whose it is.
So I'm going to save it. And we'll see that it's right here. Now you could add another one if you wanted to. And I'll just say save. And then notice there was my narrative writing, the first one that I created for week 1. I named it week 1, unit 1. This block, I named it assignment week 1. And then there's my math worksheet that if I select it, it's going to open up the math worksheet here if I want it. Now what I want to do is I want to go out to my Google Drive to see if I can find that folder structure. So it comes up PowerSchool Learning Student Files. Within that, it talks about active or inactive classes. I'm going to say active classes. You can see I have a folder called Science Curriculum 6 through 8. And then within that are the assignments that I had. And that should pretty much be the structure. It should say PowerSchool Learning. Student files. It should say that. And then it'll follow your active classes. And then you would be like, that's science, like I said. In this case, it would be the class that you're in. And then just as you keep going into these folders, you're going to get to the point where the assignment is named what you had it, and then you'll be able to look at it. So, and this is where Shannon was mentioning you could click on what they were working on and you could make a comment saying, hey, we need you to step it up, or hey, great job.
Yeah, so since it's kind of hard to see because in the subject line, the kid's name will be at the end of it. So if he was to open up one of those documents, whoever clicked on it, like it says, when he hovers over it, it says Amanda Hubbard, that's the student's name.
Mm-hmm.
So you know which student's file you're looking at. Some people have them rename it with their name first once you get in there, just so you can quickly see, you know, Amanda. That's her digital notebook, but this is just pretty useful, especially this year. I think you'll find a lot of use in this tab. So, okay.
Is there any more questions for that side of it?
I don't think so. That I've got here. We put a few resources in here, and I'll put another one in. I'm going to paste it in again. I have an end of the year PowerSchool document. So if you have a class that you used last year and you want content from it, you can click on this link and it will walk you through the steps of how to save your class as a template. Do not just go to your class last year and take your students out and put your new students in.
Right.
Because there's content that will remain, and then your page will start running slower, and you'll see the kittens with the yarn that nobody likes. Nobody wants to kittens.
The other thing that will be extremely important as well is we are recommending that when you create your class for this year, and if you're putting in assignments to, even though that you may have had them in the past from where you saved them or created a class as a template, dates are extremely important if you try to carry them over to the new class. We're going to see red flags on our end of the PowerTeacher Pro if you try to bring in a class from last year with pre-populated assignments that are not within the same date structure. So basically, it's create a new LMS, if you want to use the PowerSchool PowerTeacher Pro Gradebook side of it with points to create the assignment, just make sure that assignment falls within the right term, and then that will carry over. And that should work okay for you on that part.
If we did miss a question that you asked throughout this, please, yeah, it's very possible. They were coming in fast and furious. Some of them we weren't able to get to. If you are stuck and need to reach out to your technology coordinator, we're more than happy to help you with those questions that you have. But please check out those videos on the digital learning site that we have. I think that you'll find a lot of your questions answered there. And as you kind of dig into it, I think some of it will start to make more sense to you as well. But feel free to reach out to us as well.
Yep. And that's it. And after this, Sarah and I are going to be, if you haven't had enough
Oh
yet,
my gosh.
we're going to be doing a
It's
PL
not fun,
on choice boards, and it's a make and take session. So there will be a lot of time where we'll show you something small, you'll make it, and then hopefully you can walk away with something that you can use in your class page right away.
Choice boards are awesome. They do a great job with this one.
So
Check it out.
we'll give you about a 5-minute break if you're coming back, and then
Good time for a bathroom break, a
That's
pop
right.
break. And,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Rick.
all right.
Good.
Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thanks.
See y'all.
See you in like 5 minutes.
Bam.
Hang on. Let me get my Zoom. Hang on.
Are we off air? Right?
No, not yet. Hang on.
Because I got some stuff to say.
Hang on.
Okay, just a second. Thinking ahead to this
Wait
tomorrow.
a second.
PL. I really think we're gonna have to just do like.
Where do I stop my?
Everybody take one.
Because I have some things to. Oh, that's good.
Okay. What do you mean? Like tomorrow's PLs, we have 4.
All right.
We have 3 that we've not prepped for. So we can't all. But, so we've got introduction to Seesaw for beginners.
We'll do that all together. Since it went
Yeah.
so well today.
Yeah, that was a good one to follow up on.
Colleen,
we can
yes,
still
the
hear
Thursday
you.
one is this
Yeah.
summer that Shannon and I are redoing for choice boards.
Okay, using Flipgrid, you're
We can still hear you.
Make sure you show up the video.
Oh. That's why I couldn't see because I hid my thing. Okay.
I'm just
So
gonna